So this little phone right here is the S23 regular, just the S23, not the Plus, not the Ultra, and this is the one that is the most affordable and the smallest out of the lineup, but still absolutely a flagship, undeniably. As I said in my S23 Plus video, Samsung really unified their lineup here, all having the same colors, all having the same aesthetic on the cameras, all having a lot of the same stuff, and I'll talk about that throughout this video. But I mean, first of all, I don't know, can we really call this phone like a little phone? 6.1 inches is still a pretty sizable phone. It's definitely not a mini phone by any means, but for people who have smaller hands and don't want to use the 6.6 inch display on the S23 Plus or the 6.9 inch display on the Ultra, this really could be the right phone. I don't have particularly small hands, but I still am a sucker for small phones, and so I was really excited to see this phone and get my hands on this as well. Now, I only had a couple hours to kind of play around with this phone prior to launch, and I have some thoughts on it. So there's a lot to like here. Like I said, it really feels a lot more like a flagship phone than we saw before, and you're getting all of those flagship features at a lower price. Like I said, the same processor, a lot of the same cameras, a lot of the same software on board as well, and this is going to be coming at $799. Pretty good deal when we consider everything in here. So starting off with the design on this one, this is a much needed update. I really like what Samsung did here. The S22 and the 22 Plus, I thought looked a little bit stale to me. I really wish they would kind of adopt this design sooner. And it really felt like before they had kind of a commingled like flagship lineup where they had the actual flagship, which was the Ultra, and then the other two, which were like an afterthought, like kind of like a downgrade is what they made you feel like if you were buying those. But this now looks like the flagship, and it really feels like the flagship as well. So they redesigned it to match the floating camera design of the Ultra, which I'm a huge fan of. I think it looks really nice. It could maybe collect some dirt around the cameras, but I mean, again, a really nice look there. There are also 4 colors, and it's the same 4 colors across the entire lineup, which I was really happy to see. They're a little bit more subtle, kind of muted colors. There's a dark green, which I really did like. There's a cream color, which I liked. There's a lavender, and there's a black as well. And it's kind of like a less glossy, more of a matte finish on it as well. So overall, I think the colors, like the aesthetic of this, really, Samsung did a really good job here. And looking at the phone, on the back, we've got a Gorilla Glass Victus 2, and on the outside, we have our Armor aluminum from Samsung, and the aluminum kind of gives it like it's a more of a boxy feel compared to the old aluminum rails. And so I really like that boxier design on here. Makes it easier to hold, makes it look really nice. And I mean, plenty of benefits, right? But I think the big one's probably just that it looks nicer and it's easier to hold. And we are getting, of course, IP68 water resistance on here. Flipping over to the front, this is a 6.1 inch display. Like I said, a ½ inch smaller on the diagonal compared to the S23 Plus, but we're still getting that flat display, 120 hertz. It's full HD plus, which is not quad HD plus, but as I said for my S23 Plus video, if there's one thing Samsung does well, it's definitely displays. They crush it on displays. And this one, like I said, Full HD Plus really is no problem, especially on this smaller display. You're technically getting a better pixel density because you're getting the same resolution in a smaller display, which again is going to look even better here. And I think a lot of people on this display probably wouldn't even notice Quad HD. So Full HD Plus, just fine in my book. This also has the same fast wireless charging 2.0 that we see in the Plus and the Ultra. Of course, this has reverse wireless charging. And here's the first downgrade we're gonna see here from this compared to the Plus and the Ultra. This doesn't have Samsung's super fast charging 2.0, which is 45 watts. Instead, this has 25 watt fast charging, which is wired charging, of course, but this does have a much smaller battery. So we're looking at 3,900 milliamp hours. It's obviously a smaller display, a smaller phone, a lighter phone. And so it's really no surprise that we're getting, about 800 milliamp hours less than the Plus. And I'm excited to do a full battery test when I actually get this phone in the studio. So if you guys want to see that full video when I get this and I can do the battery test and I can actually show you sample photos as well, because I'm not allowed to show you any sample photos in this video, mostly because I only had a couple hours with the phone and I wasn't allowed to send myself the photos. So it's not like I'm not allowed to show you the photos, I just don't have them, so that's why I can't show you. So if you want to see that video, subscribe. I'll be releasing that pretty soon. Now, we have essentially the same camera setup on this as we do on the S23 Plus, which gives you a 50 megapixel wide-angle lens with the new and improved dynamic range, which is claimed by Samsung to be 4 times better than the old dynamic range, which should give you a really great exposure in bright daylight or in darker environments, hard shadows, should give you a really nice even photo. We also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide, I always love seeing that, and a 10 megapixel 3x optical that can zoom in up to 30x as the max digital zoom, which again, getting 3 solid lenses on a $799 essentially flagship phone, I think is really impressive. When we talk about what's under the hood, it's really able to process this very well. And flipping over to the front, we actually get the same upgrade here that we saw on the 23 as well, or the 23 Plus as well. And this is the upgrade from the previous 10 megapixel selfie lens to the 12 megapixel selfie lens. And you can shoot 4K 60 on here, really a solid selfie lens. And I'm excited to use this and try out the night selfie portrait mode on here. Of course, obviously, you're not always taking selfies in bright places. Maybe you're at a darker bar, maybe you're whatever, camping. You know, it's a nice feature that I could see really being useful. And of course, speaking of darker photos, we have a lot of features coming in Pro RAW mode. So one of them is Astro Photo, which allows you to take up to like a 4, or maybe even longer. I saw 4-minute exposure is what I was seeing. So you can take some astrophotography photos, so like the stars, and really capture like the galaxies in detail. And according to like what I've seen from Samsung, this should be a really nice feature that produces some incredible photos. So I'm excited to actually take this out somewhere that doesn't have a lot of light pollution and see what it can actually do. Pro RAW also gives you a lot of other things, so you can customize everything about your photo, capture multiple exposures, and different things like that. So like I said, I'll show you the full camera test. If you want to see that, it'll be in my full video. Be sure to go down and click that subscribe button. Talking about what's under the hood, obviously processing these photos does require a lot of horsepower, and so Samsung has plenty of AI optimizations, but they're running on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which is the same as the Plus and the same as the Ultra, so you're getting a really nice processor on here. You're also getting the same max brightness on all 3 of these phones, going up to 1,750 nits outdoor peak max brightness. So again, impressive. Even though it's a smaller phone, you're still getting a lot of those same specs that you'd be getting on the Ultra, which makes it feel more like a unified flagship lineup. Now the next drawback is that the S23, the regular version here, doesn't come with the same boost in storage that we see in the S23 Plus. The base model here is still 128 gigabytes, which is pretty much the standard across the industry. I think it's really more of like a nice bonus that we got that with the S23 Plus, but something to be aware of when you're comparing the prices. Of course, this will have the latest One UI 5.1, which has plenty of fun things, as I mentioned in other videos, including upgraded Samsung Notes for real-time collaboration, different things with the widgets, and of course, the ability to answer calls with Bixby text-to-speech, and of course, some camera optimizations with social media. I will be testing all of these out, and I'm especially excited for that Bixby feature. I really want to be able to essentially have a competitive feature that would be similar to Google Pixel's call screening. So really, to summarize the differences that I saw between the S23 and the 23 Plus, of course, you are getting slightly slower wired charging, but with that, a smaller battery. Obviously, the second one is you do get a smaller battery, but of course, with the smaller display, we won't know exactly how that affects the battery life until we actually get it in our hands, but I suspect we will be seeing a slightly shorter battery life on the regular 23. The third thing is that you will be getting less storage on the base model, 128 gigabytes versus 256. And the fourth one is you will be saving a lot of money on that lower price tag. So that is the S23. Like I said, I'm a sucker for smaller phones, and I really like how much they packed into this one, how it really feels more like it's part of the flagship lineup now, and it's no longer like a compromise that you have to feel like you're an outsider for buying. But leave a comment below and let me know what you think about the S23. Of course, the next thing before you click off this video is to head on over and watch the S23 Plus video, or if you really don't care about your budget, head on over to the S23 Ultra.